Honestly, Tara Hitchcock, if I was going to change my name, I'd use that. Well, that's interesting. Look, I think authenticity is the only arbiter of doing a job well. Man, oh man, we're legends. We're legends.
Tom, how are you?
I'm all right, Tara. God, what a name you have, Tara Hitchcock. It's like, did you try to come up with something that is like so rooted in cinema history that, you know, you got Little Gone with the Wind, you got a little bit of the Birds, you know, you've got Scarlett O'Hara by way of Tippi Hedren there. That's fantastic.
Wouldn't it be so much cooler if I actually was related to Alfred Hitchcock?
Well, I mean, you know, you take it.
What can you do? Although I was named after the house from Gone with the Wind, so you are
okay. There you go. There you go.
There.
Honestly, Tara Hitchcock. If I was going to change my name, I'd use that. I'd make it Taro Hitchcock, just to make it masculine. But other than that, that's a great moniker.
Well, thank you so much. You know, Tom Hanks isn't too bad either. Congratulations on this. I'm one of the fortunate ones that will get to see this. I screened it obviously at home, but I will get to see this at a Harkins theater because we are open. So I'm excited about that. It's meant to be seen on a big screen. It just is. Your character, you know, doesn't make a whole lot for telling stories. He makes mere pennies. What is the going rate if Tom Hanks were to come and get hired to tell a few stories?
Well, you know, I do it for a free sandwich, you know, and a car fare, you know. Yeah. Give me a couple of free meal or a deli platter. The pleasure is telling the stories. That's anytime you get to do that, you win.
You know, I was fascinated lately by how we present the news and what people choose to lead with or how they lead with it. Your character spends a lot of time kind of gauging the audience, and he's got a choice. He can either, you know, incite the audience or he can inspire them, and he tends to inspire them. How important do you think in this day and age it is to factor the audience and what the audience is going through while presenting facts or a story?
Well, that's interesting. Look, I think authenticity is the only arbiter of doing a job well. I mean, you cannot. You know, I'm reading a book right now about Winston Churchill. And Winston Churchill would come on when, you know, in the darkest days of World War II, he would come on and say, "It's bleak. Here's what we're facing. We don't know what's going to happen. A lot of hard things are going to come around, without a doubt. Coventry was bombed last night. We lost these guys that we're not getting that. We're really suffering horrible defeats right now. But you know what? Here's who we are. We are an island nation, and no one can really keep us." And he ended up telling the truth on both sides, how bad it was, but how much hope and how much resilience was actually there. There is, without a doubt, I think the difference now is that there's an awful lot of money to be made by stirring a pot. You know, with $1 million and $1 billion industries, based on saying that's not true. Here's what we think is true. And look, it all comes out in the wash over at the end, but at the same time, horrible consequences can be paid. We don't have to believe weather reports. You don't have to believe weather reports. But if they say freezing ice storms are coming that are going to knock down your power lines and knock out power, when that happens, you should have stocked some candles, buddy. Simple as that.
And watching Helena, and oh my gosh, is she fantastic. And the things she goes through, it reminded me of an interview that you did not too long ago about your father. And you talked about him being robbed kind of a sense of fairness and robbed of a carefree childhood. And that's exactly what happens to her on so many levels. Maybe I'm reaching, but how often did you think of your dad in doing this film?
Never. I mean, quite frankly, never. But that doesn't mean I didn't think of my own kids, you know? Yeah. You cannot spend every day with as incandescent a being as Helena is, without pondering. Look, I've got 4 kids, and I think a parent's job is to, if possible, make sure that child's life is as carefree as possible for as long as possible. And I always say, well, what burdens did I put on my kids? What mistakes what did my own ignorance or my own job or my own selfishness ever place upon any of them? So I made, at the age of 64, both my parents really hold benevolent places in my life, because they were just doing the absolute best they can. And when you're a parent yourself and you realize you're just doing the absolute best you can, and even there, you'll be making some mistakes that will be remembered, imprinted for the rest of our offspring lives, you end up cutting yourself a little bit of slack.
Yeah. I agree. Hey, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for what you did for our son. You came to Celebrity Fight Night years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to cry because I wanted to thank you in person, but thank you his name was Dylan, and I appreciate what you did that night with your wife, Rita. And thank you for this. I've been doing junkets this long. 1996, you signed this
man, for me. Oh, man, we're legends. We're legends.
Thank you, Tom Hanks. I appreciate
Good to
it.
see
Congratulations.
You, Am I allowed to drink a cup of English tea while we speak?
Are you kidding? You can drink vodka if you want.
No, I'm sure I shouldn't.
Paul, I work with the largest family-owned theater chain in the U.S., HANKS Theaters, so we're open, and I appreciate.
Oh, good. Well, I'm delighted because it's a Western. Look, it's a difficult time for the movies right now.
Sure.
But if you can go to a theater, I believe this is a great movie for today. I think it's heartwarming. I think it's a film that all the family can watch. Mm-hmm. I think it's got Tom Hanks in one of his finest roles. I think it's got a wonderful young girl who's going to be a big star. I've no doubt she's an extraordinary young actress. And it's a story, part adventure, but ultimately it's a story about the road to healing, which is, I think, the road that we all want to go down now.
You know, what's so great about this movie too is he finds purpose in something unexpected. And I'm a fan when that happens. For you, who had always dreamed of doing a Western and now you've done one, what was the most unexpected thing for you now that you've done a Western?
I think the most unexpected thing was the numbers of rattlesnakes we had on set. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And also the fact that everybody became so absorbed in the film that you really didn't care. You know, you'd literally be sitting there filming, and then some would say, "Oh, don't worry, there's a rattlesnake there about 6 foot behind you." You go, and somebody would come up and pick it up, literally, and hold it up, put it in a bucket, and take it away. That was a first for me on a film set.
Well, there are certain times of the year that they're definitely more prevalent. I know they're about to wrap me. The Kiowa tribe, the people and their culture, you do such a beautiful job of capturing all of it. Helena's character absorbs a lot of that culture as she's raised by them. For you, what from their culture will Paul Greengrass take away from this experience?
I think they were the Kiowa tribe was so wonderful. They came and they played those parts in our film, and they taught us so much. And I think it's the stoicism of and the wisdom that they have, and the sense of the connectedness of life that's central to their thinking. And then lastly, I would say this, the beauty of the language, which they are very keen to preserve. And one of the things that I was most proud of in this film is that we portrayed that, and they've watched the movie and they love the movie, and that makes me feel very proud.
Yeah, it's hard to top that compliment. Again, congratulations. I know Tom's character makes a penny or two for telling stories. What do you think the going rate is to have Tom Hanks show up at our house and just maybe spin a yarn?
For a nickel a time. That's what he says in the movie. Probably. You could ask him.
And you?
Oh,
probably a pretty penny?
Much cheaper than that.
Happy holidays early. I hope to do this in person next time, Paul. Thank you for your time. Congratulations on this. I have to ask you, first question, were you more excited when you heard about this movie that Tom Hanks was going to be in it, or more excited that horses were going to be in it?
Well, I mean, I think I did not quite know him before the movie, so I started to work out him and that he was that big deal when I knew I got the role. So I think it was both. I mean, I was really confident and excited about the horses because I have a horse and I own one with my mom, which I think is great. So that was an exciting thing. But I think also having the honor to play with Tom Hanks is just something you don't get every day.
Did you have to go back and watch some of his movies? I would imagine there were several you hadn't ever seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I started watching, or I did watch Forrest Gump, Castaway, The Terminal, and The Da Vinci Code. So all those famous movies I did watch.
You know, you are so fantastic in this, and you don't have a lot of speaking lines, which always fascinates me because I would assume it's harder to act when you're not really saying much. Was that a real challenge for you?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, sometimes it is just really great to not speak.
Right.
But also, yeah, I mean, it's tough because you want the audience to know still while you're not talking, what you mean and what you think, and also what you want the other character who plays with you, to know. So, that was a great experience, and also, I had to practice that a bit. And, but on set, Tom also helped me a lot.
Oh, I'll bet he did. You know, I have to ask you, you know, your character is basically orphaned twice and basically raised by that tribe and adapts and adopts a lot of the things about that culture. What did you take away from the culture having done this movie? What did you kind of keep with you?
Well, lots of things. At first, I learned how they think. And I mean, we think usually in a straight line as businesswomen. And I mean, they think in a circle, which was really interesting to learn because they think, or what they think what happens in a life is that you start somewhere and you get to another point and you get to the other point and to the other, but at the end of your life you'll get to the beginning. And I think which is a great way to think, but because you just never stop thinking about how your life will return to your beginning. So that was really great, and I also think that they're very kind, and I think we, as also white people, should respect them because I mean actually also we took their land away, which I think is actually really sad how it worked out. So I also wanted to really respect their culture in that movie, which I hope I did good.
Yeah, you did more than good. I have to ask you before we wrap up, in Arizona, we have pretty nice weather most of the time, but we
Yeah.
have this thing, this phenomenon, and it's basically a massive dust storm like the one in your film. And we get
Yeah.
them usually during the summer, but we call them haboobs. So I want to know, I want your best Tom Hanks haboob dust storm story.
Okay, so well, we had kind of lots of storms in the movie because that one time we had was really funny because we had the horses on set and we had us on set and everything standing around, and then they came with that huge ventilators you could possibly think of, and then with those sandbags they handed the sand on the ventilator, which was so funny to see in the scene where you really had to concentrate because all that dust was around you, and then that sound. It was,
Yeah.
there are no words for it. It was really a funny and amazing and also overwhelming experience because I've never lived through that hard storm.
Well, I'm sure it took you days to get all that stuff off you too. You probably
Yeah.
found stuff days later. Congratulations. I hope to meet you in person one day. Congratulations on this.
Thank you. Me too.